This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour being brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and out every day. 6 great flavors of slushies. And ready-to-drink cocktails like High Noon, Crown Royal, and Jack Daniels. Pickle Bar led by the Barrels and the Dills, indeed second to none. Gear up for the NCAA Tournament now and stock up at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we now bring in somebody who, within a week, because the weather's been nice, has dropped his handicap to single digits. Ladies and gentlemen, Nate Bauer.
You know, I don't think that's accurate, but that's okay. I like it.
Look, there are a lot of people who question what my accuracy is. Just roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as long as it's on the favorable side, I got no issues with it.
I'm a positive guy. All right.
I like that.
Okay, so we'll start with the NCAA tournament. Just the basics. North Carolina, Xavier in, West Virginia out. What was your thought when you saw, because it happened early that North Carolina was up on the board early. What was your thought?
Yeah, well, I saw the aftermath. I was in transit, and certainly was not exactly, expecting that. But look, this is an imperfect system with an imperfect. We talked about this before with football. You're dealing with humans who obviously nobody is free of bias completely, and so the natural tendency to call it into question when the chair of the committee is a North Carolina guy, right? And you've got other teams that are left out that don't have that presence in the room. It creates questions, but I don't know that any of the conversation is especially helpful, because it seems to me that there's one side saying, okay, stop worrying about the 35th best team, right? Because effectively, after the automatic bids, that's what you're talking about, is the 34th and 35th best teams. Don't worry. You spend too much time dealing or talking about discussing those teams when really are they actually in play? Like, is this a team that's going to go on either way? Is West Virginia going to go on either way? I don't know, but no matter how you slice it, somebody's going to be mad that their resume is not taken as seriously or doesn't get the credit that other ones do. But it is what it is. That's what the system is.
Well, my argument to Jay, because Jay Bellis is the one that made the comment, and I agree with a lot of what he says along the way, and he says it with great authority. But yeah, you do have to care about it, because I've done this for 43 seasons. So I know what it's like to be around a team that's been left out, and I know what it's like to be around a team that's in. It's important to that entity, right? And then after that, you'll see how it plays out. And everything has different levels to it. Making a Sweet 16 here is a big deal. He played at Duke, and that means you got to get to the Final Four. Well, that's a big deal there. Ask him if he wants to talk to the Duke football people about making the college football playoff.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, no question. And it doesn't. Excuse me. It doesn't. It just doesn't seem like until people's standards change, right? Like the whole conversation about what is success in college basketball, you're right. A North Carolina bid to being in the NCAA tournament is very different from other programs. Penn State would be amongst those, right? If Penn State was in the same circumstances, getting in at it, even just a squeaker to get into the tournament versus not is very, very significant. So it's just, again, until there are hard and fast rules that take the decision make, right, like the pragmatism out of the equation, I'm just not sure that this is going to be any different next year or the year after that.
All right, so Mike Rhodes will talk with the media on Wednesday. What would your first question be? You don't usually ask a lot of questions, but what would your first question be?
Yeah, I think of Mike, it's did you have an opportunity, flatly, because look, this is they put they put out a statement saying that they had moved on and would be centering their attention on the 2025-26 season. So did you have, just given the atmosphere, right? You're looking at a bunch of teams. South Carolina turned down a bid. LSU turned down a bid to the NIT. Wake Forest, Indiana. There were a bunch of teams that have chosen not to participate in the postseason. I think that his answer, I know what his answer would be, but it's good to get it on the record of, the importance and benefit of continuing to play in today's college football today's college basketball, when you're not playing in the actual tournament, is severely diminished. There is it's not worth the effort. It's not worth the money. And it is not worth the ding or the dent into how you proceed into what is now player acquisition time. Right? This is roster movement time. And so, in effect, you would love to be playing in the NCAA tournament. But if you're not, you have a little bit of an advantage in that you can start to scour your networks and scour all of the people that are out there who have a read and a beat on who's going to be in the portal, right? How do you prioritize these things? Who are you looking for in the portal? How do you rearrange your roster going into next season? And I suspect that's exactly what he would say.
Yeah, because I think that because the NCAA now runs the NIT, again, that was because that's a settlement of a lawsuit about 15, 20 years ago. Because they run the NIT, to me that's an argument if they can figure out the money that they'll go to 76, because now they're seeing a dwindling of interest in playing in the NIT. In other words, an all or nothing. Because with the transfer portal opening up on Monday, you have to, the calendar enters into it too.
100%. 100%. It again, it's just okay. So say that you're Penn State. You know that 5 players cannot be a part of your team next season.
Right.
So what is the value to them? Right. What is the value to Ace Baldwin to keep playing? There's not. It's the same situation as opt-outs in bowls, right? Where people finally, not people, but the system itself and its participants, its stakeholders, finally kind of woke up collectively to the fact that, these are exhibitions, and the way that they're handled is not of value. They're right. It doesn't help you in your future career, your professional career. So that's the first problem with it. I think the crown, right? One of the rules is something like you need to have at least 7 players available.
Right. Which
in itself is problematic. That should wake people up. That should get people to say, wait a second, what are we talking about? If one of the requirements is you need 7 players to be able to play, that should be be a screaming red alert saying no, this isn't something that roundly has participation support within the people who are actually playing in these games.
Well, let's start with this. Villanova's in the Crown, and they have to go with an interim coach. Utah's in the Crown. They're already playing with an interim coach, although I think Utah's top player did say that even though he's going into the portal, he's going to play. Degenhardt's going to play for Boise State. And there's the other component. If you get to the semifinals and the finals, there's NIL money involved. Right?
Yep.
That's the carrot.
Yeah, and maybe that's enough of an appeal, but I'm not sure. Again, for Penn State's situation, where they finished the season 16-15 and probably did have an opportunity. They would have had an opportunity to play in the Crown. Is it worth it to those guys? Is it worth it to the program against what? Well, not to mention the fact that the dates on the Crown are so late. Yeah. You're talking about, in Penn State's case, not playing in the Big Ten tournament, like a 3-week layoff between games. That's just really hard to do logistically. It's hard to keep your guys engaged. Are you going to be all there when it's time to actually play in the thing? I don't know. I'm not sure that there's necessarily a right answer to all of this stuff, but I will acknowledge, at minimum, it's complicated, and there's a lot of different dynamics in play when making these decisions.
All right, so now you're going to go into the offseason. Minnesota needs a new coach. We already know Indiana needs a new coach. We're going to find out whether Northwestern does or not. The only reason I say that is there are a lot of people who think Chris Collins is a legitimate candidate for the job at Villanova. What does this do to the dynamics of the conference, if anything?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great question.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah, that's what you do. I think that you've seen other programs upgrade. You've seen other programs, specifically I'm thinking of Michigan, who last offseason, made that transition. I think Chris Collins is a great coach. So I'm not sure, where that stands, what that would do for Penn State. But if everybody else is getting better, and we'll see what happens with Indiana, that's a tough job. The league from Mike Rhodes' first year, where they went 9-11, to this year, where they went 6-14, it got a lot better. I don't know that Penn State necessarily got worse. I think that the rest of the league got a lot better, and then Penn State, which was a very competitive team, found itself in a ton of competitive games, but couldn't close. They couldn't win as much as obviously they would have liked to. I think that there's certainly a warranted thought process of, okay, if other teams are bringing in, or other programs are bringing in new head coaches, what's the honeymoon period, right? The acclimation period for those programs. Maybe that buys you a little bit of time to seize, right, for Mike Rhodes in his third year. But now I think that this is a conference that is starting to understand, if it doesn't already, I think it's in the vein of the SEC. There was just a story, you'll remember it, I'm sure you saw it, last week or 2 weeks ago, about the SEC being all in on basketball, and how the SEC reframed the conversation, where nationally a lot of the conversation was, anything that you're putting towards anything other than football is a waste. And the SEC said, that's not right. There is money to be made. There is success to be had by fully investing in the success of men's basketball. And I think that with some of these moves, the Big Ten is following suit, and the Big Ten wants to be the same. So where you stand in that pecking order of how your commitment, your investment in the program, I think speaks volumes. And I think is probably a a good predictor of future success.
Well, the bottom line is, and in doing this for such a long time, if you're really going to look at it as business, and let's face it, it's more business than ever before, there are only two opportunities in your company to make money. The two opportunities in your company to make money are football and men's basketball. Well, if those are the only two opportunities you have to make money to then offset losses, you've got to invest in those two to make sure you're doing the best you can to offset the expected losses, because you want to keep those other parts of the company going.
Yep. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff nationally over the last week or two, even house settlement stuff. How important are non-rev sports in this equation, right? And I think that if you think there is value to those sports, the money to fund them is no longer going to come from athletic departments the way that it had previously. It's just the model has changed, and you see that actively taking place. And really, it's as much a survival thing as it is success. And so, where does the funding from those other sports come from? I don't know. If you have to pay and invest for your money-making sports to continue to succeed or to find success that hasn't been there previously, then you got to take away from something else, or you have to make new money. And the reality is both. You have to find new ways to generate revenue, and you're going to have to take away from other things that you used to pour money into. So, with that in mind, where does it fall? Where is all this money coming from? And they are all choices. They're all things that you have to decide what is a priority to you. And again, I mean, I'm not sure that there are right answers necessarily to some of this stuff, but it's going to be reflected in performance overall. You're going to see the teams, right? I mean, what was it, Maryland? The report yesterday that Kevin Willard is not only changing his own kind, right? Not only an extension or more money for him. It's a commitment to having the revenue share. Yeah. Like that's all any of this boils down to is all of these coaches want to know if they have an opportunity to win. That's it.
Yes,
and your opportunity to win is dictated significantly by the amount of money that you are willing to invest in your program. And it used to take a different shape. It used to be just facilities. It used to be amenities, like any of those different things that you could do within the rules. Well, now it's not that. Now it is very specifically player compensation, player acquisition, and player compensation. Are you all in on that, or are you not? Right? And for these coaches, all of them want the commitment from their administrations to say, yeah, we're all in. We're going to do it. We're going to do what it takes to compete at this level. And if you're not, it doesn't matter. Speaking about Penn State, it doesn't matter historically if the investment that you're making doubles, triples, quadruples what you've done previously. It matters what it is against the rest of the league.
Right.
Like that's right. That's where it gets very interesting. Is you might be investing more than you ever have before, but if you're not investing on the same level as the rest of the league, you're gonna have trouble. It's gonna be a hard sled.
Which brings up then the West Shore home deal for the naming rights to the field inside Beaver Stadium for 15 years. Between the expansion of the stadium and also the NIL components, because West Shore Home has been deeply involved in NIL. I mean, it's 2025. Isn't that a 2025 deal?
Yeah. Yes. I'm not sure, all the angles that you've covered on this show, but to me, the one thing that stands out more than anything, and certainly understand the Paterno feelings and some of that camp and the advocates for different naming or trying to raise money for that. Here's the bottom line: this money is real. It is there. right? A fully formed business that has been vetted by university processes has, right, all of that stuff has cleared protocol, and checks can be signed, and when you put the check through, it will clear. Like that is the bottom line on this proposition. And for Penn State, when you've got shovels in the ground, right? We drive by it every day. You see the progress that's being made. You understand what's happening over there at Beaver Stadium. You need that money. You need that money, and you need it right now. And anything to offset expenses that you already have, commitments that have already been made, it helps because it frees up other money. You're just more of the pot is the same than it's ever been, right? Yeah, some of it's a shell game, and you're moving funds around, and changing where it's coming from a little bit. But at the end of the day, if you've got money that's coming in, you can use it and distribute it as you choose. And so for money to be directed, $50 million over 15 years to Beaver Stadium, that means that's $50 million that you don't have to come up with yourself from other revenues, and that's huge.
Yeah, because look, nobody understands the emotion of how people feel about Joe. I mean, are not going to feel it any more so than I do. All right, after working with him for 32 years, but I also was around him enough to hear him give quotes. And one of the quotes, if I heard it once, I'm going to say I heard it 15 to 25 times over the years. I want your money and not your 2 cents. Now, that's a direct quote, okay? That's not, I'm not taking liberties with it. So I'll just, he understands the value of what people are contributing. So he understood it.
Yeah, and they need it. They need it more than ever, right? That is what the situation is for Penn State athletics. Right? It's not an existence thing, right? This isn't a crisis. This is an opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. That's to me the framing that is a reflection of reality. Is you pushed all your chips in with this stadium, and so because of that, the reason you pushed your chips in was because you saw a backside of it that was beneficial from a financial standpoint to the health of the university and the health of the athletic department moving forward. That is the upside. You're betting on yourself with this. Yeah. Okay. You need other people to bet with you, right? Mm-hmm. Like you need the support of the community. You need other people to be rowing in the same direction on those efforts, because there is a brighter backside to this than I really think than even people recognize, right? And the more that plans come out and renderings and those kind of things, I think people will get excited about it, and I think people already are excited about it. But now that it's real, now that it's actually happening, it can't just be kind of a figment of your imagination, right? It's no longer a hypothetical. It is, okay, this is what we are doing. This is how much it costs. How do you pay for it? And then going all in on that, trying to figure it out. And, again, a $50 million deal over 15 years, that helps tremendously in those efforts.
It's going to be in the 70s on Wednesday, swing away. Thanks so much, my friend. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you having me on.
Dave Bauer, back with more in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.